Right now, we are going to move to our fourth speaker, Mrs. Alina Kadlubsky. Mrs. Alina Kadlubsky is the art director, WebXR developer, and director of communications and lead of the accessibility and safety working group of Open AR Cloud Association, which mission is to drive the development of open and interoperable technology, data, and standards to connect the real and digital worlds for the benefit of all, as well as chair of the Cyber XR Coalition Public WG. Mrs. Alina Kadlubsky will be speaking about WebXR development and missions on Open AR Cloud Organization and the presence of women in AR, VR, and XR domains. Let's welcome Mrs. Alina.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
Hi.
It's actually quite interesting following Mohamed's talk because what I will go now in depth, but actually one of the reasons why we founded each other, the Open Air Cloud, around 2 years ago, was because we already saw the evolvement of walled gardens and closed ecosystems. So we thought, okay, there needs to be a counterpart, especially moving forward, because it's so important that all these big tech companies are currently working on their own solutions, right? So there needs to be a decentralized open alternative, like the beginnings of the web. But more in a couple of minutes. Hey guys, welcome. Great to be here and talking to you. Yeah, I'm Alina Kadlubsky, product designer, web XR developer by day, and director of communications and chairing the accessible and safety working group of OpenAir Cloud, as well as part of the public working group of CyberXR Coalition. Can I? Oh yeah, thank you so much. Should I just say next slide, or how would you guys like to do it?
As you like.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, awesome. Yeah, we, the Open Air Cloud, are a global nonprofit organization with the mission to drive the development of open and interoperable spatial computing technology, data standards, and best practices to connect the real and the digital world for the benefit of all. And thanks for having us. I'm really excited in behalf of the whole Open Air Cloud team being part of today's session and sharing how you guys and all students across the globe as well can join forces and being part of creating and rewriting history. We formed, next slide, please.
Okay.
Yeah, we formed each other 2 years ago and kicked off with our efforts with a privacy manifesto for Air Cloud solutions. The upcoming teaser in the next slide compiles that in a nutshell. So guys, kick it off. Oh, there should be a video.
It's a video, so let me. Okay. So a second. Yes. I will change the screen to the PowerPoint.
Okay, awesome.
Yes. So I'm waiting to PowerPoint to be opened on my second screen. Yes, now I can start. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's it happened.
It's okay.
Yeah, technology, I know.
Yeah.
So yes, I can close that.
Oh, while we wait, I could maybe fill in and talk about WebXR and women in tech. I mean, I actually graduated 2 years ago, and I actually graduated with a WebXR portfolio. I have background in art direction and graphic design. Back then, WebXR standard wasn't existent, and the term of A-frame and Mozilla was just about to start. But the tool of A-frame, the great thing about it, and especially as you guys students, it's an open source tool. And the great thing also is it works with any headset. So since this is all developed within the browser, the way of distributing your work is way easier, especially with low cost. So if you don't own a headset, you basically just have a 360 website. And it's low cost. It's all open source. Just go to A-frame and you can start. There's so many tutorials, and there's so many ways of kicking off and producing content and just experimenting. And this is actually a great start into this new technology and emerging technologies to kick things off. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Our physical reality is changing. The internet is moving off screen and out into the world around us. Digital information, content, and shared experiences will blend into view, impacting every aspect of our lives, culture, and economy. This feature is made possible by AR cloud technology, which includes machine-readable maps that tech giants and startups are currently spending billions of dollars to create. To reach its full potential, AR cloud applications, content, and experiences must be accessible and work seamlessly for anyone, anywhere, on any device, without unjustified restrictions. Above all, personal, private, and sensitive data collection must be limited, compartmentalized, and protected at all costs. We must earn and preserve trust through open and interoperable systems that deliver authentic shared experiences people can rely on. The time to act is now. Join us at the dawn of this new era and help influence how it all begins. Visit openarcloud.org to get more info, join working groups, and get involved, committing your time, talent, and resources today in order to ensure better tomorrow.
Thanks. So yeah, that's basically how we formed each other 2 years ago. And the emergence of the internet, when millions of people across the globe started to connect, brought into light the lack of trustworthy design and the abuse of digital systems. The amount of data collected, processed, stored, and ultimately misused, privacy misinformation, disinformation, socio-political distortion, the weaponization of information, and the introduction of cybersecurity and privacy laws. The lessons we learned here is that we need to keep the transient ischemic attacks as a foundation while building XR systems to actually ensure we do not lose the grip on our realities as a result of losing trust in XR systems. So actually being part of creating the first XR privacy framework that we just released the week before Facebook Connects and the framework and combining privacy and accessibility is actually never done before. 21 current digital frameworks were not designed with accessibility as their foundation. Therefore, a post-production movement emerged to make digital systems accessible to all. With immersive technologies, both the hardware and software of XR should be customizable for all users, and specifically for those with disabilities or special needs. Only then can we hope for an extended reality design and development that is generally human-centric and accounts for human limitations, whether temporary, so if you broke your arm or you have a stroller, or permanent. Next slide, please. while being busy, start building implementations of the core pieces of our reference implementation of our decentralized open spatial computing platform for the real world. Next slide, please. So you see the core pieces here on the right hand. So the core pieces for our reference implementation open spatial computing platforms are GeoPost, the reality service, which provides the reality modeling language, and the spatial discovery service, or the SDS. Next slide. So, but what are those terms about, right? So the GeoPost is like the URL link. It links the real and the digital world. Our founding partners, the Open Geospatial Consortium, are developing this universal global standard together with us within its GeoPost standards working group, which kicked its work off beginning of this year in January. Then we have the reality modeling language, which provides users and machine with a powerful new way to interact with reality through standardized encoding of geometry, semantics, properties, and relationships like data linking of a dynamic reality of their location through a reality service that speaks the reality modeling language. And then we have the spatial discovery service. You will have a seamless access to content through the service applications, communication channels that are available to you at your location. Not totally unlike a DNS, but operating as more distributed way of focusing on referencing local resources. So for a while, we have been hard working, designing and detailing the concepts and contributing to essential standards development work. So recently, we are actually taking another step, and we started working on actual implementations. This brought us to the point where we could start testing that platform concept in the real world. So next slide. Yeah, with the help of our partners of Augmented City and Immersal, we are launching the world's first city-scale testbed for a prototypical open spatial web based on the open spatial computing concepts. The initial testbeds are planned for 1 year of continuous operations. The city-scale testbeds will implement two of the most fundamental concepts of an open spatial computing platform, the GeoPost component, positioning service, and a spatial discovery service. The testbeds will provide an opportunity to collect feedback from users, developers, content creators, local businesses, local smart city initiatives, and other stakeholders that will yield valuable insights and inform future development. It is essential that this platform is designed for all of humanity in all its diversity and does not become a walled garden controlled by one or a few large corporations. So it's important key that we avoid any monopolization in the spatial computing era and the ecosystem that we are currently starting to build. As we all here know, many of the world's largest companies are currently investing heavily in this type of technology, but they might not be the best custodians of important things like rights, ownership, privacy, and freedom of individuals. The type of distributed architecture that is ideal for a spatial web could unleash opportunity and prosperity around the world because spatial data, content, and services are most valuable at its origin. If done right, we actually believe in our organization that the spatial web will empower individuals, local businesses, and communities alike to be in charge of their digital lives and economies. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Alina, for your great presentation. We will move right now to the questions and answers. We have here a question that says, what do you think are the most technical challenges in ER, VR, or XR?
I think currently it's really important that we make sure that we create really a future for the benefit of all, and therefore privacy and also content ownership, privacy, but also ownership of data, and making sure that we don't wake up in 10 years and we live in a Black Mirror scenario where actually the Facebook and Googles of the world actually rule this world. And that's also one of the reasons why our collective founded each other 2 years ago, because we saw it already unfold. And that's why we think it's really important, like the early days of the web, that there's a decentralized, open alternative out there. So I think that's actually that's one of the challenges.
Thank you so much. I have a question from a friend. She asks, how present are women in the VR and AR industry right now?
Oh, I think, yeah, so we're still a minority, and but you have to, the tech industry for a long time has been ruled by one part, but we see it now changing. I think if you, it still is an issue, and as you see me, I'm a woman, and I'm so proud to be talking to you. It's not an easy part. It's not an easy path, but I think it's really important moving forward that the future of tech is as diverse as in real life, right? All mixes of color, heritage, culture, and it's really important also, in order to make the tech accessible, that diversity should not be, and accessibility and inclusivity should not be a marketing scheme. If you implement a diverse set of team from ideation through to production type, also you build, your product looks way different. I mean, at the beginning of VR, women with ponytails has had issues wearing the headset, as well as taking into account people wear turbans or hijabis and other things. I think it's really important that how we create this technology from hardware but also software is making sure that we set up teams that are diverse.
Thank you so much. I have one last question for you. What advice would you give someone that wants to start a career in AR or VR?
I think for me, my triggering part was 2017 when I wore my first VR headsets, and I was using tilt brush, and I remember being a kid and always drawing on the paper, but usually the paper wasn't big enough, so I always started to draw on the table. It went actually that far that my mom bought me like this racked up table to draw on. And I remember putting on the headset and being in tilt brush and having this like infinite canvas. But now with AR, you also have the ability to really in the real world is like this, combine the real and the physical world. So yeah, and just being part of that was for me the hook to be. And also, just as I said, Aframe, just go on the web. There are so many tutorials. If you have an idea, there's actually nothing that holds you back, right? And if you have problems, the community is so helpful. Just reach out. They are always so shareable. That's also how I started. It's like just watching tutorials and just trying things out. And that's why starting with actually Aframe or something browser-based, it's so easy, because it falls back with HTML frameworks and building, it's open source HTML and entity components. So there's not really much that you can do wrong, and you have a really quick response.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have another question?
Yes, yes. We have a question from Shiva, our next speaker. So she wants to ask you, what does you think about Oculus Quest 2 login policy? Every user must have a Facebook account. This is forcing people to have Facebook accounts. Is it obviously a violation of freedom and free will?
Yes, I mean, that is a huge, and I mean, I'm currently looking up open source headsets because I remember when actually Facebook acquired Oculus 2015, they promised no users should be able to log in with their Facebook accounts, and also taking into account Oculus Quest 2, yes, it's $100 cheaper, but you freaking pay with your biometric data. You pay with your data, and I don't want to be the ones telling you you shouldn't use Oculus, but when you buy a headset, that is something that you have to ask yourself: is this $100 less worth of the data I pay? And this is a lot that we've been discussing, and we just launched a privacy framework a couple of weeks ago, and I think this is a really important discussion, and also moving forward is how much is any end user willing to pay for the data? How much is it worth for you? So for me, I'm really how this is unfolding. It's really, for me personally, it's a no-go. But I don't want to be the dictator saying every end user shouldn't buy Oculus. They are great headsets. Yeah, I think at the end, it's what we can do is really making sure that we build an equal and democratized ecosystem, and that's why we put out those standards. And one moving forward is really making sure that we avoid any monopolization moving forward.
Thank you. I would like to thank you for being part of our IEEE Day and for sharing your experiences with us today and for talking about women in tech, and especially in VR and AR. It's very motivating, especially for all the women wanting to have a career in tech. It was a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, guys, and be curious and test, and you know, the entry level is really low cost, so go forward, girls.
Thank you.
So,
have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Alina, if you can answer another question.
Sure.
Yes. So this is a question from Zakaria, our first speaker in this virtual conference. So he said, "What's your strategy for including Morocco and Africa in the Open AR Cloud initiative?"
Yeah, so we already have a couple of members. I mean, we have so you have to keep in mind, everybody who's currently involved in OpenAI Cloud is all 100% volunteer. So everything that we developed in the last 2 years has all been done in investing our leisure time, because we believe in the mission that we have. I don't know if we actually have the answers to this, but at least we try, right? So it's basically, yeah, the Goliath against the small one, against the big ones, right? But at least we need to try. So yeah, we are always open. We actually we have a couple of members from Africa, and I think it's really important. That's why we started off as a global organization, because we think moving forward, this can only be tackled on a global scale. So yeah, just go to our website or send me an email. I provide you infos. We kept our membership prices really low, so it's actually 12 euros a month, which is basically like buying a magazine a month or becoming a part of OpenAI Cloud, right? So for us, it's really important that students can also be part of us, and yeah, everybody's welcome. And it's, yeah, just get in touch with us and let's join forces.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, guys. Be curious. Let's work together on this.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Yeah. Yeah, you too. Good night. Bye-bye.